Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Untitled Sickos project. I am Bears fan here with two of my co-hosts and a very special guest. Before we get to the special guest, though, we got to introduce the other two people that help make this the most sick podcast in the world. Why did that sound so cheesy?
Oh God.
Shut up.
Hello, I am Nickman. Uh, I am I am a local Vegas man. My throat hurts because of wildfires. However, you probably couldn't tell a difference in my voice. You probably couldn't tell any differences. So yeah, it really doesn't matter that much with how deep my voice is. But yes, this is local Vegas man checking in.
And lastly, we have our very special guest.
Hi, my name is Tyler Weiss. I am a sports journalism major at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication at Arizona State University. And I am originally from Boise, Idaho, but I've recently moved to San Luis Obispo, and I am a Chargers fan.
Oh, well, we got Tyler on because he was a good mutual of mine, and he knows a lot about his football stuff. But as always, before we get into the actual preview, we have a little welcome mat to roll out, and I think this is going to be a pretty funny one. Madden ratings came out, guys, and all I gotta say is this. It's incredibly funny that Joe Flacco is a better quarterback in this game than Daniel Jones. Is that true to real life? I don't know, but it's still pretty funny.
I wouldn't say it is, honestly. I mean, Joe Flacco's whole thing in Cleveland was just a bunch of it was like downhill, like aggressive ball, like overly. It got to the point where he was just chucking it, and it worked for until it didn't. But it's just I think Joe Flacco, in a sense, is kind of getting a bit overrated after like right now. I mean, it might. I don't think people are putting him super high, but I've seen some people like say that he's worthy of being a starting quarterback in this league still in this day and age, and I just don't see it.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
just funny though. It's funny to see a guy like him still show that he can kick it sometimes. But even then, oh yeah. Hello, viewer. But back on topic. It's just these next group of Madden ratings just did not really come out to par. After all, we have some. No, I was just gonna say, I think the more baffling of it all is that while I think Jordan Love and CJ Stroud are very comparable in some aspects, the fact that they're both 81s, even though they had like top 10 QB play all of last year, it's kind of disrespectful to that. And to say, and not to mention too, they did guys like Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford really dirty.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
honestly,
can hear you.
Yeah.
I'm honestly like, all right, am I clear now?
Yeah, you're good. Sorry.
You
Okay. It's all good. I honestly just like I don't understand anyone buying Madden in the year 2024. Like I kind of thought we were all like just boycotting the game or something like that, just saying, hey, you haven't changed anything for years now. we're not going to buy it this year. We're all going to college football 25. But no, I'm still seeing people like spending more money on the deluxe bundle when like I get pre-ordering college football 25, but I saw people like purchasing Madden with pre-ordering Madden with it. It's like, what are we doing here? That's more money that you could be using elsewhere with groceries to actually, feed yourself. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, for some content creators, I do understand why you get mad and it's a cash cow. But
That's
like
true.
at the end at the end of the day, Madden hasn't peaked since Madden 12, and I think that's oh oh what's your favorite Madden then? Of course,
I mean, honestly, with Madden, like the thing with Madden is that I feel like the last time I saw a lot of people talking about Madden in a way that was actually positive was probably when the mobile versions were pretty popular, and that was like almost a decade ago, which should really tell you about the state of Madden since then.
yeah, more people are nostalgic for mobile games than your AAA title. But no, I
Question.
gotcha.
I wish that they would just give some of these players like it's like, if you really want to make it a lot more of like a talent-based game, give some of these players like, I don't know, like a rating of like a 1 or something, just to see what happens.
Well, Nathan Peterman's a 59 overall in the game, so at least they did one thing right. Nathan Peterman is probably the worst quarterback in the league currently. But then again,
Actually,
that's
who is
like
the low?
calling. I mean, then again, saying Nathan Peterman is bad at football is like saying Brian Scalabrine is bad at football. I mean, those guys would probably run like laps around me. But with the welcome mat out of the way, let's get into the meat and potatoes of it, the AFC West. Um, I mean, we all could just say Mahomes exists and then ends it there, but there's still three other teams that are at least two of them are very interesting.
I think the Chiefs, like, you can talk about an interesting element they have. Like, now they're actually going to have a real offensive cast and actually like have a deep element now.
True.
And the Chiefs. There- Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the Pats and the
True.
Chiefs just swapped bodies. They swapped them, and now the new one runs the evil empire now.
Like Mahomes.
Yeah. But since we might as well start off with the Chiefs because they're the most ironically, they're the most boring team to talk about because like not to say like the players are inherently boring, but like Tyler said, they'll actually have a decent cast this go around. But like what else can you really say? Like this as long as Mahomes is still leading that team, they'll be Super Bowl contenders every single year. Though well, I guess in that case, do you guys want to talk about the entire Rashid Rice situation and how
I
that
mean,
might affect them?
oh, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Wasn't he like speeding or something, and then he got pulled over for what was it like? it had to have been like an absurd amount of weed that he got pulled over for in Texas, which like if that was anywhere else that's understandable, but that's a big crime in Texas to still be able to. Oh,
Oh, yeah. So, yeah. So yeah, basically, yeah, there was a high-speed hit and run featuring Rasheed Rice, and yeah, that was really the domino that kickstarted it all for him this offseason, which yeah, not the only controversy the Chiefs had this offseason.
Harrison Butker.
Yeah, the whole I mean, I don't really like speaking on this kind of stuff. I mean, I just kind of really took a while to think back. You know, my mom is someone who has taught me that like she is that probably been the most powerful influence on my life, and I don't think there's a harder fighter or someone who works harder than she does. I mean, you guys certainly might think otherwise, but you guys haven't met my mom, but that whole thing kind of just made me sit back and reflect and think, just wow. I mean, that someone is a prominent, somewhat prominent figure is just going up there and saying that, you know, when they're getting lied to, as if they're working or like they're working and so they're getting lied to. It's like crazy.
Yeah, it's just the
Yeah.
whole entire Harrison Butker situation is just it's really messed in general, and it's like this kind of goes back to like what I kind of want to talk about the Chiefs as well, is like they have been such a media circus this season that obviously they've been like in the media before, but from dating like a top pop figure to being actively mentioned in the news almost every single week, and all the stuff coming out, I do want to see how this version of the Chiefs look like when everything is scrutinized. Not now, granted, last year their football play was scrutinized a fair bit. After all, you lost to the Raiders, but it's just it's gonna be really interesting to see them like that because they're going to be in that sort of area where now if they just breathe wrong, a lot of media is just going to go slamming out them. And when you're having a bunch of young guys come on the team, that's going to be a little bit intimidating to them. So I guess we'll see
Yeah,
about that.
and we know how hard it is, you know. 'Cause, you know, when you win a title, you know, you will absolutely have targets on your back. You know, obviously, it makes it more impressive that they went, you know, back to back. But there's a reason, you know, there's a reason that, you know, a team, you know, in American sports hasn't three-peated since the, you know, Kobe and Shaq Lakers. Like, there's a reason that's been the case.
Yeah. But I mean, like I said, there's not really much that we can say about the Chiefs that like not everyone else has said besides like the media storm that's brewing. I mean, Willie Sneed, I believe that's the guy that got traded, or no, Legarius Sneed, that's who. Legarius Sneed got traded to the Titans, and they got a little bit compensation back, but like that defense should still be top 10, top 5, and
Yeah, I'm a little worried about like Josh Williams on the boundary. If I were a Chiefs fan, I would be kind of worried about that. I feel like he's probably going to get picked on. But I do, you know, Spags. I think he'll probably do his best to mitigate that, and if anyone can, it's him.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, Steve Spagnuolo's been in the league for like he's had to have been a coach for over like 40 years by now. Because isn't he like 60 or 70 right now?
Yeah,
He is
he's very old.
64. Yeah, 64.
So, yeah. No,
No,
we don't
no.
need to get into that joke. We don't need to
Okay.
get into that joke.
Anyways, regarding the Chiefs roster, hey, Carson Wentz is on this roster. Did you forget about that?
Two two-time Super Bowl champ Carson Wentz. That's very funny to think about.
Yeah, it is funny.
Ooh.
We should. There isn't really much, so maybe we could move on to either the Broncos or Raiders.
Yeah, well, we normally do like a floors and ceilings because
Oh,
we're
okay.
like those people. For
All
me,
right.
I think the Chiefs can easily win. Their ceiling is 17 games. You have Patrick Mahomes. You literally can win any game imaginable. And their floor, I guess 10 wins if everything goes to like the worst possible.
Yeah, I feel the Chiefs are. Yeah, this is gonna be a team that has a winning record, so might as well give them the favor that they deserve, being back-to-back Super Bowl champions. Floor is 9 wins. Ceiling is 17 wins. It's a guaranteed winning season.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna set my ceiling at 16 just because no team. I can't really imagine many teams going 17-0. Granted, if it were to be a team to go 17-0, it'd probably be them. However, I look at this little patch Sunday through they have a short week against Houston, and then they play the Steelers on Wednesday. I mean, that's pretty unheard of rest disadvantage. I mean, and then they have to go to Denver on Sunday, week 18, even though they might be resting their starters then. But I do think that that's a time where they'll probably lose one game. I that's just the vibes I'm getting. But I think ceiling 16, and we'll say the floor is like 10 wins. I don't think that they're gonna be any I don't think they're gonna be any worse. Probably. What was the rest record last year? I'm forgetting. It was like 11-6, right?
I think they were
Yeah.
12-5.
Yeah,
I think they
something
were
I'll
like
12.
check.
that.
11 and
Uh,
6. That was the record.
My bad.
all right.
My bad. But yeah, moving on to a more interesting team, Denver, and what I would like to call the quarterback room from hell, where you have Bo Nix, Zach Wilson, and I forget the last. It's always the last person I keep on forgetting.
Garrett
It's
Stidham.
yeah,
Jarrett
Stidham.
Stidham,
Yes, Stidham.
and
Yeah, the New Patriots Twitter had that nickname Studham, so that's just kind of what popped into my mind.
that's honestly so fair. But I guess before we start,
Oh God. Um,
Stidham, but I guess my first question I'm gonna pose is, who do you think starting week 1? Let's just go
Next,
around the table.
no, it's got to be
mm,
next, bro. No, guy's not
you know,
that guy's starting for the Birmingham Stallions in like 2 years. That's probably his best bet. I mean, you don't take a first rounder and don't start him week 1, or else that's just kind of malpractice.
well, the way I see it with this, because the thing with Bo Nix is I feel like he's the kind of quarterback, given he got selected in the first round, there were questions, was he gonna get selected in the first round or not? This is the kind of quarterback where if you're Sean Payton, I definitely think he's gonna want to see right from the gates, okay, what does this guy have? And because of that, I think Bo starts week 1.
Yeah, I
I
feel
just
Here's Here's the thing, though. Knicks has probably. I think the reason Knicks was taken by Sean Payton in the first round is because he's the perfect guy for Sean Payton's system. I mean, what was he asked to do at Oregon? He was asked to throw a lot of dump offs. I mean, 32%, I believe, was the number of screen passes he threw. He ran play action a good amount. I believe he was never really asked to push the ball downfield. He was kind of asked to just stink and dunk. And I feel like that was at many times the Broncos offense last year and also with Sean Payton and Drew Brees back in the day. I think just Nick's is the guy who you'd want running that offense because he's so familiar with doing it. And, while he is kind of an intriguing element because at Oregon, he wasn't asked to do much outside of that. And obviously, there are going to be times where he has to play make, and he has shown flashes of playmaking, but it's not like he's this super talented. He doesn't really have the talent to be this awesome playmaker, one. And two, he's never really shown that he's a guy who you'd be comfortable with outside of structure. I'd say like 11 reps per game or something like that. I mean, he's just feels so strange to me.
Yeah, I mean, he's an
I,
interesting prospect. He's a very interesting quarterback prospect, and it's like the way I see it, it's like I feel like I know what I'm gonna get from him if he does well, but yeah, he's someone where it's like, I can see him doing well, but I also get the feeling that compared to other quarterbacks, his ceiling definitely isn't, there. Like he doesn't have the ceiling that other quarterbacks in, this draft class have.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think
From
I think go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you've been what?
I
That's
mean, he's
fair.
he's a good offensive mind. That's what I will say about Peyton. He is
I
a good
agree.
offensive mind, but he just doesn't seem like the right guy for Denver's whole situation. I think the Knicks will give them some what's the word I'm looking for? He'll give them some sustainability
Flashes.
or yeah, from and now I think what he'll keep the QB stability is what I'm looking for. Stability. I think he'll give them quarterback stability for like 3 years, maybe four, and then it's time to pay him if they really want to give him the fifth year option. And then, is he the type of guy you'd be giving $60 million? I don't think so, but I do think he'd be able to give the offense a high enough floor to be fine these next couple of years, depending on what they do with their defense, which we will probably get to their defense soon. So that's a nice little transition, but that's just my thoughts.
I think for the most part, I did want to say who I think would start. For me, I'm on like the fence between Nix and Zach Wilson because it is like what I imagine. Like he's like the type of quarterback that I can associate him is with Derek Carr. And I'm talking like the Derek Carr now that's been doing screen passes for most of the time while he's been in St. Louis. Not St. Louis, New Orleans. And my thought process is, do you want to try to see if by some chance Zach Wilson can work? or you get a very, very, very raw Derek Carr who can run the dink and dunk, but if you ask him to do anything else, you're probably looking for a little bit of pain. It's just I don't know. I would probably lean towards Knicks, but I think if Zach Wilson does well in the preseason, easily Zach Wilson will start. But going back to Bo Nix, I do think Derek Carr is a good like comparison for him. Because just that's pretty much all I gotta say about it. But
Yeah,
moving on to other non-Bo Nix stuff about the team, they could definitely be sellers. I mean, there's some teams that would pay a pretty penny for Cortland Sutton because he's a good piece that could go deep into a playoff run.
yeah, I do think that makes sense. I mean, I do think that it's at some point there are going to be some of their some of their big players that have been shopped around. I think at some point, they're probably going to get frustrated a bit. I mean, especially with the offense the Broncos are probably going to run next year. I think Cortland Sutton definitely is a guy to be on the trade watch because it's going to be pretty run heavy, and I think Knicks is going to be a pretty he's going to be thrown to his first read a lot, and that first read's not Cortland Sutton, then it's just going to be a little bit of a Sutton's probably going to be like, okay, I should probably get out of here.
Isn't it Josh Reynolds? Isn't it Josh Reynolds his ex guy? Isn't Josh Reynolds his ex guy?
Josh Reynolds is his
No, he's
Josh
on Denver
Reynolds.
now.
Yeah, he is on Denver now, but what do you mean by ex guy? Like, what do you mean?
Like his ex wide receiver. There's like an
Because I
ex
know
wide
his
receiver, and a wide receiver
teammate Troy
slot.
Franklin who was at Oregon. He's on the Broncos too because the Broncos selected Troy Franklin from Oregon.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Mhm.
The ex wide receiver. Yeah. I ignore. I went to football lingo a bit too much, but like, wouldn't Josh Reynolds be his first read then? I would assume. 'Cause I always thought Cortland Sutton was the guy that you lined up left of him and not right of him.
I think they're probably going to make Cortland Sutton the feature guy. I mean, I can't imagine an offense with Josh Reynolds as the feature guy, honestly. Yeah.
Fair enough. Oh yeah, I did want to say this real quick. Tim Patrick will finally have his first healthy season in like 2 years.
Yeah, he
So
hasn't
he'll
played
be able
since
to replace
2021. Don't jinx it, please.
Wait,
Don't jinx
Yeah,
it.
I do not have high expectations for him. Honestly, it's sad. I mean, he was at one point one of the more underappreciated receivers in the league, and now it's just like, okay, it's looking pretty rough with all the injuries he's had over the past couple of years, and he's 31 too.
Ouch. Oh, Nick, guess who's the backup center on the Broncos? He's our
Oh
guy,
God, I
Sam
see it.
Munsterfer.
Yep. I see it.
Their legend, Sam
That
Munsterfer, the guy that
Yeah.
Bears
center
Twitter made
room,
highlights of.
yeah, that center room is
Sorry,
rough.
go
I
ahead.
mean, Luke Wattenberg, I did not like him as a prospect, and then it's like that's the backup. And with an offense that goes under center, it's like, okay, I would have really tried to. I do think they were probably going to lose Lloyd Cushenberry, but if you weren't going to, then go after him. If not, then just go after like a Will Clapp, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, at least their tight end room is pretty solid. Adam Totman and like Greg Dolchik are like they're a good 1-2 punch. Granted, they're not like upper echelon type guys, but they're still pretty good. But like, yeah, or Trotman, I don't know. Uh, gotcha. Well, moving on to their defense right now. I mean, they have Patrick Surtain, but I don't to try to fill the hole that Jeffrey Simmons left is going to be pretty hard. Which, speaking of Jeffrey Simmons, he still hasn't signed with anyone yet, and that's
You
kind
mean
of
Justin?
interesting. Justin Simmons. I don't know why I said Jeffrey Simmons, but yeah, Justin Simmons. Yeah, but it's interesting he hasn't been re-signed yet.
Yeah.
I don't know why. But still, they got Pat Surtain, so the secondary can't be that awful, right? But, but I mean,
Mm.
other than their, other than that, I think Nick Bonito is going to be potential for a breakout season, and we also get to see the deadly punter battle between Dixon Riley and Trenton Gill.
Yeah, I was about to mention Trenton Gill. I was about to mention him.
Yeah. But other than that, I think we can move on to floor and ceiling. I guess my floor for Denver, 3 wins. My ceiling for them is probably like if Bo Nix does it okay-ish, maybe 8, maybe 9. It's just it felt like last year was kind of a rare opportunity for them to go somewhere because they had that like 5 to 6 game stretch where they looked like absolute world beaters, and then they just kind of just stopped. So I'd say about 8, 9 for like ceiling. About what? 9. Gotcha.
9. Okay. Um.
I
No,
think
you're
it's. I
good.
think you're chill.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I
okay
think
now.
I think my floor
Yeah.
for them is about like 4 wins, and ceiling is at 8, which is I don't know. I think they're a pretty predictable team. You kind of know what you're gonna get from them.
Oh, 100%. What
Yeah,
did
and
you have,
I
Nick?
I haven't said it yet. I agree with that. I think that that's probably a good way to sum up the Broncos. Like, this is going to be a bad team. I think it's pretty obvious they're going to be a bad team. And this season is basically just, you know, Sean Payton and co. just seeing, okay, what can we get out of this roster? Who's going to be here for the future? And who's going bye-bye? Because I think that's really what the Broncos need to do now, given, after last year, it's like the Broncos realized this offseason that, yeah, we're having to do another rebuild on top of a rebuild. So, floor for the Broncos is 3 wins, and ceiling, if they find some ways to win or Bo Nix overachieves, 8 wins.
Well, moving on to the in my opinion, the funniest team in that division, the Raiders. I'm gonna say it right now. I don't think the Raiders are going to be that bad. Now, you may be asking, why do I think that? Well, I think a lot of the early games that they played in the season were straight Josh McDaniels issues. It had nothing to do with the talent, it had nothing to do with the roster. It 110% had something to do with Josh McDaniels being their head coach. And before we start, I do want to say this. I think the Raiders are a dark horse playoff team. Now,
I agree with that.
you thank you. Someone sees my vision. I mean, you have a very good defense with probably a top 3 edge rusher in football, depending on your pick. I know some people put like T.J. Watt, Miles Garrett, and uh, what? God, I'm forgetting his name. I hate blanking in moments like these, but he's Max Crosby.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you're good. Max Crosby is like a top 3, top 5 edge rusher in football. Not to mention too, like I don't even think like their secondary is that awful. They've stepped up within these last couple of years to being wet cardboard to a decent unit. Now, obviously, you need a score. Oh, what did you have to say, Tyler?
Uh, yeah, I do agree that their defense is very good. Last year it was really good, and I think it's probably going to be really good again. I mean, their secondary, Jack Jones really stepped up. The CB2 spot's a bit of a concern, but everything's good enough, I'd say, like to be considered a good unit.
Yeah, and
Serviceable.
I thought he was okay. As a what? Okay, now your internet's kind of fading. True. You have oh yeah, you guys would have Spectrum over on the coast. But I mean,
Eh,
I don't think Gardner Minshew is that bad. I think he'll definitely look a lot better under a unit with like I'm not saying the Colts had bad weapons because Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman are good weapons, but like Devontae Adams makes anyone look like a good quarterback, unless your name's Jimmy Garoppolo.
I mean, here's the thing: like Gardner Minshew, a lot of Steichen mitigated a lot of things in that offense, and he really made Minshew's job easier. And I think Getsy, I don't think he has the like. I know you are familiar with him. I don't
Oh
think he's
mhm,
God.
the I don't think
mhm.
he's the genius with the training wheels that Shane Steichen is. So I think he's probably gonna get exposed a bit here, even though he does have a very good set of weapons.
Yeah,
I
100%.
I remembered that they signed Luke Getsy as their offensive coordinator. I mean, their run game will be decent as a Bears fan. Like, Comcast moment.
Uh,
Oh, Lord.
I think you need to stop the Tony Hawks, Spencer. I think that's kind of messing with your interwebs. But oh yeah, you sound better. But you sound better. Just just I mean, back to what I was saying. I mean, even then, I think that Luke Getsy will at least get the run game solid. And you know what? If they can just have a decent run game, their defense is good enough to at least at least beat the Broncos of the world, and maybe take a game off the Chargers, and maybe take the game off the Chiefs. Who knows? They did it last year.
they might stay beating the Broncos. I mean, they have not lost to the Broncos since 2019. I mean, we've had a worldwide pandemic, a new presidential administration, and a bunch of movies have passed since they have beaten since the Broncos have beaten the Raiders.
That's really funny. But as a Bears fan who the Bears haven't beat since 2018, I don't think I have much of a place to really sit and laugh at a team for not beating an opponent. But I do want to bring up their running back one is Zamir White, if I recall correctly, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
Oh, he's my breakout guy this year. I think he's going to get fed the ball a ton this year. And I get that sounds very obvious with Luke Getsy, but like when Zamir White stepped in for Josh Jacobs in his absence, he just picked up where they left off. And who knows? Maybe it was better to keep Zamir White and have a lot more cap space to re-sign your guys than it was to keep Josh Jacobs. I'm not
I mean,
saying
the
that
thing to
losing
note
Josh.
with Zamir White, I just want to quickly chime in. The thing to note with Zamir White is, a lot of that, it was towards the end of the season, especially when Jacobs was having some injuries, that, they gave him the shot. And, during the Chargers game, during the Chiefs game, and, the Broncos game, like, he did great. Like, he did great in all three of those games. And that was, a really good sign for him, and what his chances could hold for 2024, and hopefully he keeps that momentum from last season going into this season. But yeah,
I think other than that, their offensive line is kind of it's gotten better. Colton Miller has, or is it Miller? Yeah, I think it's Miller. Colton Miller has went from a guy who looked like a potential bust at the beginning to a very solid tackle right now. And
Yeah, he's awesome.
did they re-sign their center, or did he go to Miami? I forgot.
I believe Andre James is their center, and he's good. Yeah, Andre James is their center, and they also got JPJ in the draft, and Dylan Parham's a solid guard, so the interior is nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Christian Wilkins.
Yep.
That was the biggest question mark signing for me all season. It's great for the Raiders, don't get me wrong, but like that was like at the very bottom of like places I expect him to go.
Yeah.
Hey, we also can't forget they signed Bears legend Cody Whitehair.
Oh, yeah, but yeah, they did. I forgot. Ah. Yeah.
The starting offensive line is good, I will say.
And also, don't forget they also drafted Jackson Powers Johnson from Oregon, which I love that draft pick.
Yeah.
Oh.
Mm.
I remember too, and obviously we all forgot about Brock Bowers, which like it's Brock Bowers. He's either going to look like what Kyle Pitts should have been at the beginning of the season. I mean, at the beginning of his career, or he's going to look like Kyle Pitts right now.
I think
because like. Really?
Hey.
Brock Bowers was a great tight end coming out of college. Like,
Yeah.
he was better than like. Was he better than Pitts? Were they saying he was better than Pitts? I'm not quite sure.
I think his
it's
ceiling
close,
was
but I
higher.
think Pitts.
I think Brock's ceiling was higher, but in terms of college results, I think Pitts may have had a bit of well, Brock has the titles, but Pitts, I think in terms of on field, he was probably more. I think Pitts was better on the field, but I also do think Brock, in terms of, just the fact that he's just a physical beast out there. Like he has, I think, probably the highest ceiling of a tight end that, or at least one of the highest ceilings a tight end in the NFL has had coming out of college. And regarding the Raiders, because probably a good time for me to chime in, considering I live in Vegas and I get every Raiders game, and I've had to deal with this. I've had to watch Raiders games for many years now, and I've seen the ups and downs of this team, mostly downs though. But I will say, if there was any positive about last season, outside of the fact that the Raiders were a lot better to end the season than they started, it's that, for even though it wasn't perfect, if there was something I absolutely loved about Antonio Pierce becoming coach of the Raiders, it's that, my God, the Raiders were so much more interesting to watch. Like, not just in the fact that they have Pierce, but also the fact that on the field they felt like a team with a lot more effort than you ever saw with, Josh McDaniels. And like last season, I feel like it really showed, like, hey, the Raiders, there's a lot, there is something brewing here where the Raiders absolutely have the potential, to be something good. Now, do I think that will happen? That's a different story. But there's one thing I can confidently say about this Raiders team, and how I expect other teams to view them. This Raiders team is going to be very pesky and a very gritty team to have to play against. They're gonna give it their all out there. I expect them to be a very high effort team, and they're going to be annoying to play against, even if you are a much more talented team, and you'll probably beat them. But they're going to be an annoying team to have to play against. And looking at the Raiders, we mentioned guys like Brock Bowers. They still have Michael Mayer, who's going to be entering his second season. You have in the receiving core, you have Adams and Myers. Like, this is a very strong receiving core. And if Brock Bowers, has a strong rookie season, I think this is a great receiving core. But obviously, the big question will always remain with this Raiders team: who steps up at quarterback? Because you're really looking at a ceiling of probably a mediocre quarterback. That's probably what you're going to be getting as your ceiling, and that's really between, Minshew and O'Connell. And seeing both of them, like Minshew is like the standard. Like for me, he's like, what you're getting from him. You know what his ceiling is, and okay, he'll be an average quarterback that has, high moments here and there, but also he's never really gonna be, someone that, really takes it to the next level. So kind of like he's kind of like a Ryan Fitzpatrick. And Aiden O'Connell, on the other hand, like he showed some flashes last season, but we know what his ceiling is. We know that he's probably just going to be one of those journeyman quarterbacks in the NFL. Um, Even though I do find it a bit funny that, watching the Kansas City Chiefs get beat by a team that was starting a Purdue quarterback. I find that pretty funny. I don't know, just something about Aiden O'Connell beating the Chiefs last season. It was funny.
Oh boy.
Why? Oh,
I mean, I think he's just like an absolutely insane talent. He had more career yards per route run than any first round tight end selected before him. I think he's really his speed is just unreal. I think he's pretty much positionless. He's very versatile. I think he's got a lot. I don't think he's going to be like other tight ends, and I do think he can overcome having Luke Steckel. Granted, I haven't really heard much about him aside from he was in consideration for the Chargers offense coordinator job 2 years ago, I believe.
reasonable.
Um,
To I did want to say real quick. The Raiders are giving 2022 Lions vibes. I feels like they're just gonna mess around and ruin people's day. And as long as they
Yeah.
do that, that season's a success for them. Now, with this all being said, I think it's about time to get into floors and ceilings, and I think easily a floor for this team is like 5 wins. That seems like the worst case, but you know, their ceiling, I could see them winning 10 games, perhaps 11.
Mm,
Mm,
uh, oh, if I'm being honest, I said this is going to be a very competitive, this is going to be a very annoying team for opposing teams to have to play against. And I think for the floor and ceiling, it does reflect in terms of how I feel like, I don't think there's really that big of a gap between the floor and ceiling of this team because it's like, is this the most talented team? No, it's not the most talented team, mainly because their quarterback room is not that impressive. But I also know this will be a very competitive team, and this will be a team that, will get the most out of themselves. So I think in terms of floor, I'll go around 6 wins. And ceiling, I'll go 10. Listen, I love that I
yeah.
talked about the Raiders and I didn't even mention the fact that regarding last season, I didn't even mention the fact that I watched in full the game between them and the Vikings. I watched that game in full.
Yeah. What did you have for floor and ceiling, Tyler?
I had the floor at like 7, ceiling 10. I agree with Nick.
Ooh, nice, nice. Now we're on to the big ticket item, the Chargers, which according here it says the Chargers will trade Justin Herbert to the Carolina Panthers.
Oh,
We
you
don't
checked my
make we
Twitter.
Oh yeah, I literally just opened up and it's the first thing I saw. Anywho, welcome to the Chargers, Bryce Young.
Yeah,
Oh, n-
I mean, it was a TWSN article saying the Chargers will trade Justin Herbert to the Carolina Panthers, and I screenshotted it and I just captioned it, "I'm sure," and I just sent that tweet out for fun.
yeah, it's totally gonna happen. But you know what, Spencer? I'm gonna take what you said about the Raiders and I'm gonna put it on to the Chargers. I have no idea what this team is. Like, you got John Harbaugh, you have Justin Herbert, you
Jim
have
Harbaugh.
that My bad. You have Jim.
Be fair, it's Luke who usually makes the mistake, by the way.
True, true. But like, is it gonna? But like, J- the, you have a Harbaugh, you have Herberts, but like after there, like I don't know, man. Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack are great edge rushers.
And Thule.
Who's covering
And
for them? Oh yeah, Tuli
Asante
too.
I think he's a good coverage corner. He's just bad against the run. I mean, he's short, so he naturally has a hard time with tackling, and he has a pretty thin frame too. So a lot of times he takes a lot of bad angles. Yeah, that's just kind of who he is as a player. Then there's Christian Fulton, who I mean, 2 years ago he was pretty great in Tennessee, and now it's just like okay, he's kind of gone down a bit. So they did a buy low with him because he's only 25 years old, and cornerback play is volatile. And then there's Jossier Taylor, who's I think he's a better special teamer than a coverage defender, but also there is something to consider here it's sounding like Brandon Staley's scheme, and it was definitely a sentiment echoed amongst a lot of people in the locker room, is that he overcomplicated it for these defensive backs. He overcomplicated the scheme for his players, and thus it just made it harder on everyone else. And apparently, Jesse Minter has taken an entirely new philosophy and is simplifying it and just letting the players be the players. And I think just off of that alone, you'll probably get a defensive upgrade from that. I think it won't be a super top tier defense. Like obviously he comes from the McDonald. He runs the McDonald scheme, and but I don't think he'll have the Mike McDonald defense for the Ravens last year, especially because he just doesn't have the personnel. However, there are some bright spots on the defense. I do think, as you said, Bosa and Mac good. I do like the potential of Junior Colson and Dion Henley at the linebacker room and the safeties. Derwin James, I think he should be better this season. Last year was a pretty rough year for him, but I think they asked too much of him. And I think Alohi Gilman last year, he really shined and he's very good in zone, which is what Minter runs a lot of. So I do think that's another spot there. So it's going to be a fun unit to look after. There are going to be some growing pains for sure, and I don't think it's going to be perfect, but I am excited just to see how schematically it's improved.
Oh, yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Wow.
At first, I did want to say something. I don't think I don't think Puna Ford is talked about a lot. He was really solid in Seattle, and like he's going to be a starter on this team. And like, how come no one's talking about that? Like, he was good in Seattle. He's just old, and I
Yeah,
think you could. Have a
yeah.
personality on the Patriots team. But I do think it needs to be stated though that this defense is kind of old. So not saying that it inherently means this, but I think it is possible that there could be a lot of injuries going into this. But even then, they have decent backups. Like Cam Hart is okay. Bud Dupree, he's not what he used to be, but he'll still be fine enough. And just
Yeah.
but
Mhm.
I'm sure the more interesting part of this team is the offense, which I'll just say this: Joe Alt's gonna pretty much be a Hall of Famer by the end of his career. I think we can put that down now. And you know, Rashawn Slater, Justin Herbert might have an offensive line where he gets to throw the football in under 2 seconds instead of under 1 second.
I mean, I do think the interior is kind of rough. I do think that'll show up, but the tackle duo is going to be great for sure.
I think Bozeman's decent. Like he's not the greatest, but he's okay.
Yeah, he is. That it's the guards I'm more worried about. Trey Pipkins, he's a career right tackle, and he's going to be going over to right guard, which is it's a little sketch. And then I think Zion Johnson, he really has to prove it this year.
Yeah, and look at
Yeah.
the O lineman. Hey, we got Bears legend Alex Weatherwood.
Former Raider too. They're free from the shackles of Baltimore. Their ACLs will be clean. They will experience health they've never experienced before. But
Yeah.
oh
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
he
is.
is.
oh oh God. Oh, I have vivid flashbacks to DJ Chark on the Lions. I'm not saying that like DJ Chark is like washed or anything, but like if he's starting over Johnson, then there might this might be a rough unit. But I think he
Mhm.
I think
I guess go ahead.
Lad McConkey is going to be really good. I think that's who I'd highlight. He's going to be the security blanket that Justin Herbert defaults to. I think he's in store for a really big year. Josh Palmer, while he's never really taken that leap, I do think he is solid enough to maybe even project a good year for him too. I think it's going to be a better duo than everyone expects it to be. But I think the wide receiver 3 spot, yeah, that's a pretty big concern. I mean, I'm obviously projecting a bit here, but I do think that what Josh Palmer and Lad McConkey are going to be a good enough duo.
I
Yeah.
think
Yeah, I mean, my thing with the Chargers, the receiving core, it kind of I have like similar thoughts on this receiving core, similar to the thoughts I have on like the Bills receiving core, where it's like there's some potential here. Like there's some guys who I could see like a McConkey. I can see him having a strong season. Someone like, maybe Johnson has a much better year than last year. For his sake, he will need a better season than last year. But the question is, who takes that torch? Who takes that torch for this Chargers receiving core, and who steps up to be, the guy that leads this core? And I think that's the big question regarding them here.
The answer
I
is
have
Lad
a real
McConkey.
funny
Yeah.
I have a really funny answer though. Joshua Palmer and DJ Chark get hurt. Thus, Brendan Rice is wide receiver 3, and thus we have the return of the Rice bloodline. I don't think it'll happen, but it would be really funny if it happened.
The script writers would be cooking with that one.
Yes.
You're just saying that because you want. You're just saying that because you're a Chargers fan. But Will Disley.
Yeah, he's a solid blocker. He much better blocking than the tight end room from last year. Because I mean, that was a rough unit blocking last year. It was a really hard watch.
Wasn't Gerald Everett your best blocker?
It was. Yeah, I mean, I think he would be, and he was pretty not great at blocking. Well, like pass blocking, he was solid, but run blocking was just a rough unit. It was a really bad run blocking unit. Yeah, he
Well,
I don't know. He did write a good article on Justin Herbert, and he that kind of sold me on him. But yeah, I mean, it's cool that that there are some familiar names on this staff. I mean, Navarro Bowman as the linebackers coach. Harbaugh really went all out with the name value.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. By the way, I forgot.
Yeah.
Just looking at his resume. I forgot that he was the Ravens' offensive coordinator. After that, I forgot about that.
Ouch. But it's time for the real question. Do we need to start having Cameron Dicker Kicker of the Year nominations right now? Because I think
Yes.
we need to start having
Yes.
Cameron Dicker the Kicker year of allegations starting right now.
Yeah, he's
I
awesome.
mean,
So is
I mean,
Ficklen.
he's
I mean,
legitimately though. Cameron Dicker is like the kicker that Chargers fans wanted 10 years ago, and
yeah,
they
he's
get him now.
wild.
Uh oh. You know what that means?
Oh,
Guangdong Tigers. Ni hao!
wild.
Get ready to learn. Get ready to learn soccer, Cameron, because you're joining Dwight Howard in the Shanghai League.
That's wild, man.
Uh, but I mean, my thing is with the Chargers now. Justin Herbert is coming off an injury. I don't think that'll affect his play much, but it needs to be said that you know, Herbert hasn't gotten enough help. So, are we going to say that this year he's finally gotten the help that he needed? Or
No,
is that
but
going to be
I mean, I think he'll have the best run game he's ever had. That's for sure.
right? It's just I think Herbert's a great quarterback. I think he's like a top 5 guy. But we do need to start having the conversation as to when has he finally gotten his chance? I don't think he's gotten it yet, but I think we need to start getting to a point where we need to start asking that question because
Well, okay. I think
Oh, no, I
well,
agree with that. It's just here's the thing is, it's like Herbert's a great quarterback. There's no denying it, and I really do hope that, he can get, like a great cast that can, really, bring out the highest ceiling in him because he's a fun quarterback to watch, and when he's at his best, it's pure cinema to watch. However, I do agree with Spencer that there are definitely points where it's like people will definitely defend Justin Herbert over literally any mistake he made. And it's like, okay, guys, I know Herbert is having to play for a team that does not help him, but come on, you do not need to defend every single error that he makes. You do not need to go that far.
well, here's the thing. Like, as someone who has defended him on here, I think like there are certainly some people who do defend that. I mean, and obviously he has had some errors. I'm not going to act like he's perfect, but I think that the way it's been positioned, it's kind of like people are saying, "Oh, well, he just it there." I'm sure you've seen the hypothetical man graphic where people are like, "Oh, he just wants all pros at every position," But the thing is, I feel like that conversation needs to be shifted to league average cast. I mean, he had a league average cast in 2021, and the offense was a top 5 unit in every metric. And he was healthy that year, too. And the only difference from 2021 to these past 2 seasons is his cast has been significantly hurt. So they've been they've been pretty easily bottom 5. And these past 2 years, I think the run game last year, outside of week 1, was the worst of any team in the league by far. The offensive line had injuries, like Corey Linsley got hurt, and I think the receiver core, it's just been a mess. I have Keenan Allen and Mike Williams have played a grand total of 6 games, I believe, together in the past 2 seasons, and now they're gone, obviously, but still, when your wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 are missing that much time, it's always going to be hard, especially when there's no depth behind him. And it's just he hasn't had the league average. He only had a league average cast 1 year out of his entire career, and that 1 year the offense was a top 5 unit. So I feel like this whole conversation of him needing these players is ridiculous because he's shown that he can put the production up with a league average supporting cast.
I think the greatest example we could put to it is I think a team with a very average offense is like the Titans. They have DeAndre Hopkins, they have Tajay Spears, they have a couple of these like they even have Austin Ridley or Calvin Ridley. I don't remember the Ridley's name, but like I guess my thing is if you put Justin Herbert on the Titans and he's the quarterback, are the Titans a playoff squad? And to a point, I think yes. I think they are a playoff squad. However, I do want to say that I think I think at some point we do need to kind of get a little bit tougher on Herbert. Not saying like we aren't tough on him right now. There are a lot of valid criticisms where Herbert has occasionally just thrown a random Josh Allen type ball, and it just gets picked off. So I don't know. I I guess my thing on the entire Herbert. You can go ahead, Tyler.
I think the most valid Herbert criticism out there is his. At times, he does get a little conservative, and a lot of it has to do with the offense because I don't think he trusts a lot of people to go downfield, and he really shouldn't. I mean, he had to force Keenan Allen to be a deep threat last year, and Keenan Allen is not the deep threat receiver that you would want at this day and age. I mean, he's very slow. While he does have good ball tracking and he is a good route runner, he is not the type of guy who is going to stretch the field vertically for you. I think well, he's kind of got. There are times where he will check out of a read just because he automatically knows that person's not going to create much separation, and he doesn't let routes develop at times. Immediately, he'll get this tunnel. At times, he'll get this tunnel vision, and he'll immediately dunk down to the first person he sees open. Oftentimes, it's taking the check down, and I do think while the cast is partially to blame, I do think that's just a bad habit Herbert has, even though he is a very good processor and he is very good at seeing the field. It's just there are times where he he does get a little conservative and he hasn't taken as much risks as you want someone to. And I feel like even if it were to come at the expense of a couple more interceptions, I do believe that getting more aggressive on offense is something that it should happen. Even though he's not like this guy who is totally unaggressive. I mean, he will push the ball downfield when he sees necessary. He will throw it into tight windows. He throws it into tight windows all the time. It's just what he hasn't been doing is he doesn't push it downfield as much as you'd like someone to.
Well,
Yeah, that's a really good point.
yeah. I mean, unless you guys got anything else on the Chargers, I mean, I think I'm ready for floor and ceiling with them. If you guys have any like final thoughts on the Chargers or anything.
I definitely expect the Chargers. I definitely expect this. Um, like at least for the start of the season, particularly, I definitely see the Chargers running the ball a lot more than they do pass. I just see that being the case.
Yeah, they will run the ball more than they have in years past, but I do think it's going to be more a balanced offense. I think it'll be like a pretty even split. I don't think it'll be too heavily in the run or too heavily in the pass. I think it'll be like
Mhm.
50-50 or 55-45 plus. I think the notion of run heavy is a myth in this league because you'll see that in like a lot of the times running the ball is in the second half when you have a lead and you're trying to drain the clock. I mean, I think
Yeah.
in a neutral game script, most teams are not are not run heavy.
Mm.
I don't see them going that far. I mean, I think it's best to temper expectations because I mean, this is year one. They got a good foundation, but it's a foundation. It's gonna take a while. Like it's gonna take a year before we can get this team in that talk. I believe.
Well, well, I do want to get to my floor and ceiling because it kind of ties into what Spencer said. For me, I think the Chargers at worst could be a 3-win team. We can see what happens when Justin Herbert isn't around, and if Justin Herbert isn't around again due to an injury concern or whatever, this team will obviously suffer. But on the opposite hand, I think that their ceiling, if everything goes right, easily 12, 13 wins. I think they're a true wild card team as to like I could see them taking the season down a complete and utter travesty. But then again, I could see this season going down to oh my god, Harbaugh was the answer all along. We just needed him to show up.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead. Oh, I think that my ceiling for them is going to be 11 wins. I think I just don't. I just think there are too many questions at this point in time. Like they're a very weird team, but I think so. But with that being said, with the floor, I'm probably going to go 6-11 because Harbaugh and Herbert, just as a head coach quarterback duo, is a duo that's already one of the top units in the top duos in the league, and it's just they've got the quarterback, offensive tackle, edge rush. Those are some very those are always key component pieces when you're building a Super Bowl roster. Like you obviously want to build outs. They've already got the foundation, so to say. I'm kind of just rambling here, but yeah, I do believe that in summary that Harbaugh and Herbert give them a 6-11 ish floor, even with the holes on this roster.
Spencer,
Yes.
Nick?
What's up?
Yeah, Spencer, you want to go first? Yeah. And for me, like with the Chargers, my floor is 6 wins because I think even I could definitely see the Chargers having a lot of struggles, given how many holes they have on the roster. But I do think, with Harbaugh as head coach, I definitely think they'll still be better than last season, or at least have a better record. So floor is 6, and for ceiling, I'll go 12. Like I think there's still way too many flaws with the roster for, them to, instantly become a Super Bowl contender. But I definitely think, if things go right, if, Harbaugh does a great job with this team, then I definitely feel like the Chargers, they have a very strong case to be a playoff team if things go right.
Yeah, that was.
Well,
I mean, I
go
think
ahead.
that's pretty much a summary of it, like a good clip notes of it.
All right. Well, that was the AFC West preview. Before we go, we already did our pick'ems this week, but as we have done with tradition for our guests on this episode, we have our guests do the pick'ems. We, however, won't do the CFL games because I'm pretty sure they're concluded by now. So yeah, so Tyler, if you could give us 5 random teams you think are going to end up winning their first preseason game.
Um, let me just think. I'm gonna sort this by. I think I'm gonna try to sort this by draft. No, not draft class. That might not be the best team. Best way to go about things. Actually, that's what I meant to say. I think I'll go with. I want to say. Who do I think? I think I'll go with the Chiefs. Pretty basic answer, and I think I'd probably also go with. I want to say Pittsburgh. Yeah, Pittsburgh. I think. Who is? I think Baltimore is a good lock too. They always do well in the preseason. Uh, Philly. Sure. Well, no, not Philly, because Philly plays Baltimore. I think. Let's see. I got Chiefs, Steelers, and Baltimore. Okay. Um. Who else? I'm gonna go New York. One. I'll say
Which
them.
one?
The Giants.
Which new? Gotcha.
Yeah. And then who's the fifth team? I'm gonna go with the who do I'm debating between the Niners and the Cowboys. I'll go with the Niners.
All right. What were you gonna say, Spencer? Ooh,
Yeah.
interesting.
All right, but those are my
But
five. They were all just shot in the dark, but that's my five.
that's fair. Well, obviously now we'll give you your 30 seconds to a minute to show whatever you want. You have the floor.
All right. Follow my ex, formerly known as Twitter, Tyler Tyler M as in Mary, Weiss WEISS _. That's my handle. Go follow that, and that's it.
Oh yeah, I did want to ask before we go because I meant to bring this up somehow. How was it meeting Justin Herbert for the first time?
Oh man, it was unreal. It was an awesome experience. Yeah, I will never forget that day.
That's amazing to hear. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Once again, thank you so much for the support on the channel recently. We've really tried to make better videos recently, and just in general, thank you for the support. We'll hopefully see you soon. We'll hopefully see you soon for the next week, which I think it's the AFC South. I may or may
Yes.
not be correct, but yeah,
Yes,
we'll
it is
see you
the
next week for the. Gotcha. Well, goodbye, everyone.